Welcome to Based on a Book, the podcast where we read it, we watch it, and then we try to survive talking about it. I'm Lindsey, and if this podcast were a post apocalyptic journey, I'd be the one insisting we stop for snacks.
I'm Crystal. I'm klutzy with both eyes open.
And I'm Keri, and curiosity would 100% be the end of me.
This month, we're diving into stories full of danger, destruction, and a little bit of mayhem. Starting with a tale that dares to ask, can you survive the end of the world without ever opening your eyes? In this episode, we'll be covering the 2014 post apocalyptic horror novel Bird Box by Josh Malerman, which is his debut novel, and its 2018 Netflix adaptation starring Sandra Bullock. So, Bird Box poses the question, what happens when the scariest things aren't the monsters you see, but the ones you can't? And in a world where simply seeing the wrong thing can drive you to madness and death, survival depends on one terrifying rule: don't look. When an unseen force decimates the global population, Mallory must navigate a post apocalyptic world blindfolded to stay alive. With two children in tow and danger lurking around every corner, both seen and unseen, she embarks on a harrowing journey towards safety and relying solely on her instincts, her will to survive, and sheer determination. So, I want to go ahead and get into ratings. Keri, I know this was a reread for you, so I'm going to start with Crystal.
You're only saying that because you have no idea what I'm going to say.
It's true.
You're like, she's going to hate this. She was scared. The mom in her hated the story. The mom in me loved the story. This is a solid 4.5 tipped over canoes for me.
Oh,
Yep.
I'm excited. Yeah. Keri?
I gave this 4 bells, which actually, when I read this the first time, old Keri had no idea what she was talking about. All right. And I always say I never change my rating from my previous rating. We don't know her. Never seen her. Don't know her. She gave it a 3, and I don't agree with her. But I listened to the audio. I think at the time when I originally read it, I watched the movie and then immediately read it. At that time, that may have affected my rating. This time, read it, watched the movie, and it had been a really long time since I'd watched the movie. I really, really enjoyed it. I listened to the audiobook. It's narrated by Cassandra Campbell. I thought it was really good. I loved it.
That's awesome. I'm so excited. I originally watched the movie when it came out, but this was my first time reading it. So I actually gave it 4.5 survival rules.
Ooh, wow. Lindsey's coming back.
Lindsey's
coming back with the books.
I was nervous. I went into this super blind. Not only had I not read it or watched it, I literally had no idea what it was about. I knew there was a Netflix movie. I knew Sandra Bullock was in it. I knew she wore a blindfold. That is all I know. Because remember, like, the promos for it were just like her in the boat.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I didn't know there were kids involved. I didn't know there were, I don't know, creatures involved. I didn't know anything. All I knew was Sandra Bullock wears a blindfold.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was like full on. I had no spoilers. I had no idea. I didn't read the back of the book first, nothing. And I was really thrilled by the suspense building in this book, because it's not the kind of suspense that like leaves you like freaked out that the chainsaw massacre is behind you or anything. It's just creepy. It's just slow building tension, and it's written so well. First, as someone born and raised in Michigan, the author Josh is from Michigan as well, so loved that. Also, the places in the book are places that I know of, so that makes it, I love that. But seriously, the tension in this book is top notch. Absolutely top notch.
having seen the movie before and then reading the book, I was still nervous for how they were going to get from point A to point B. Like, I knew the ending. I knew it. But I was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god, what's going to happen?" I already know.
Literally have chills right now because I'm just thinking about it, just talking about it. The suspense building in this book, like you said, Lindsey, and this was a reread
Mm.
and a rewatch for me. And at the time I had watched it multiple times because I remember when it first came out, I watched it and then I watched it like 2 more times immediately because I was like, you guys got to see this movie. And I had watched it with like different people at different times. And it still had the same effect as like seeing it and reading it for the first time. So, I mean,
I
that's a
read
pretty damn good book to me.
absolutely. I read the physical paperback, and I think after hearing you say that you listened to the audio, I might go back and do that at some point.
Yeah, the narration is excellent, in my opinion. I think it's really good. I do think it's interesting that this book, it was written, I think the author kind of like notes on this. I don't know if you guys remember this, but the movie The Happening
Yes.
that came out, he
Is
was
it
writing
scary? I
it.
didn't see it.
It's M.
Yeah,
Night Shyamalan, is it?
I think so. It has like Mark Wahlberg in it,
Zooey
and
Deschanel.
yeah,
Mhm.
it kind of has the same elements
This
as
is a very
this
much
book.
an M. Night Shyamalan story.
Yeah. It has the same elements where it's like this thing in the air that they don't understand that's
Mhm.
making them
Mhm.
do something similar that's happening in
Mhm.
Bird Box. And I think the author talks about they were writing this rough draft of this book while that movie came out. So I think it's like very bizarre that these concepts are very similar.
Huh.
I
Okay.
think though that we saw a lot of that happening honestly like post 9/11 when you think about a lot of the unseen threats that we have, like thinking of Leave the World Behind, thinking of
Mhm.
what's the one that we read that we
The Max Booth or
yeah,
whatever.
we
We
have
need
to
to
do
do
something.
something.
There you go.
Mhm.
Like all these unseen threat type
Yeah.
stories, I like those so much better than a slasher, than a gory, and honestly, considering there's a crap ton of blindfolds in this story, the more I don't see, usually the more I'm going to like it. Like I like that unknown, that suspenseful, that kind of creepy, that's the spooky stuff that I'm into. So I'm so excited, Lindsey. You're doing so much better with your
Yeah.
pick.
Just you wait.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Wait,
fall
me
apart.
thinking back to
Oh
the
no.
ruins. Me thinking back to the ruins. Well, wait a minute. I'm just kidding.
Okay. Just one bad one recently. The rest
This
have been
is
great.
That
this is
one wasn't
probably my peak.
terrible.
My peak, and then it's gonna all go downhill from here.
Oh my god.
I
No,
do want to
I
point
really
out
enjoyed it.
this is Sandra Bullock's first horror movie since The Vanishing in 1993, because apparently she doesn't like horror movies.
That's
So,
my girl. I think she did amazing. I think she
Mhm.
did so good. I
This is
loved
another
her
one
in
of those
this.
though where the cast was
interesting.
it was really honestly, I was kind of
Mhm.
excited by the cast. Like because I had again, I went in blind. I had no idea. And there were a lot of bigger names in here that I did not expect,
Mhm.
or at least recognizable. So,
The
yeah.
the movie was also scored by Trent Reznor. We got another one.
You can tell, and it's really good.
He
Mhm.
also said that he felt like scoring the movie was a waste of time because they mixed the music so low you couldn't hear it. So,
Yeah,
Sounds about
I can
right.
see that. Yeah.
but before we get into it, was there anything else we wanted to bring up?
No, I'm ready to dive into this because I'm excited.
Mhm.
All right, listeners, this is your final warning. Just like Mallory and Bird Box, you do not want to accidentally stumble into unknown territory unprepared,
Mm-mm.
because from this point forward, spoilers are lurking in the shadows. We're about to dive into every twist, every unsettling moment, and yes, even that ending. So if you haven't read the book or watched the movie, now's the time to pause, blindfold yourself from spoilers, and come back when you're ready. And as always, this is a Lindsey episode, and it wouldn't be a Lindsey episode without a novel's worth of content trigger warnings.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Both the book and the movie contain depictions of suicide, mental illness, and psychological trauma. There's also scenes involving violence, death, child endangerment, animal death, and childbirth under extreme stress. Sensory deprivation and claustrophobic moments are also key elements of this story. If any of these topics are sensitive for you, please take care while listening and feel free to skip this episode if needed. Your well being always comes first. And I don't know why I continue to cover these adaptations where the movie changes so much from the source material.
I know. As we were going through and I was watching the movie and characters were changing, and I was thinking of how The Ruins was, I was like, poor Lindsey.
They couldn't even keep the character names the same.
No, they could not. Nope.
So we're going to try to break both stories down and discuss the differences between the two. We're going to open in a bleak, post-apocalyptic present time. Mallory is preparing to take two young children, boy and girl, on a dangerous journey down a river in a rowboat. Her instructions are clear. Do not remove your blindfolds. Not ever. If you do, you die. That's where both the book and the movie begin. It's a desperate moment of escape, blindfolded against some invisible horror. But now we're going to rewind to 5 years earlier.
How this book and movie, like, how it starts.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
I cannot physically express how good it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're just like, what is happening? I love when a book does that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just throw me in and, like, start me off with, like a freaking a clusterfuck, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
especially going in blind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
That's what I want. I want that, especially in, like, a horror novel. Or,
Mm-hmm.
like, if you could call this a horror. I'm assuming this is a horror novel, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Horror, suspense.
Thriller.
I just really loved how the book and the movie go back and forth from, like, the present time to the past to show us how we got to present time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was done so well.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah, definitely. Like, how we're going between them. There is an urgency in the present. Something bad is happening, and we are at our last resort between only one person and two kids.
Yep.
And that's it. And then we go back and we have, like, a bunch of other characters, different circumstances. I love that because we're trying to connect. Okay, but how did we get to this point?
Mm-hmm.
Even
knowing when you're in present day, you see who is present in present day, and you're like, what's gonna happen? You go back to the past. We have all these people. What's gonna happen?
Yeah, especially the two kids. The two kids part. Oh my gosh, I love that. I just love it.
That I was, like, on the edge of my seat about that. Because she leaves with two kids, and then we flash back to 5 years ago or 6 years ago, I can't remember, and she's pregnant. Yeah, but that's all we really know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in the movie, Mallory is a somewhat reluctant mom to be, and she is visited by her sister, Jessica, in the movie. A news report warns of mass suicide sweeping through Europe and Asia, but like many Americans in a horror story, they brush it off. In the book, things feel even more isolated. Mallory is actually already living with her sister, Shannon. And the strange suicides feel more like a whisper than a scream at first. But both versions escalate quickly until the horror is literally outside their front door.
Mm-hmm.
And in the movie, Jessica, played by Sarah Paulson.
Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, that's when you know it's going to be good.
Oh, I know. That's how you know it's going to be a good horror movie.
Yeah.
But she sees something in the movie. And in this moment, she just calmly walks into traffic. We have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. And before that, in the movie,
Mhm.
they're in the hospital and they see someone like smashing their head into like a window. And it's like, it goes from in the movie compared to the book, which I get why, you know, we got to speed things along in the movie because we're trying to make it super fast paced.
Yep.
It went from 0 to 100
Absolutely.
in the movie.
And I feel like in the book, that build of like, we heard there was something happening in Russia.
Yeah.
And then we slowly hear more stories about it spreading to other parts of Asia and Europe. And then we hear about there's a case in Alaska.
That's
and they're
the one.
worried, like the sisters, you know, Mallory and her sister are worried about their parents in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I think the movie takes place in California.
Yes.
But in the book, it's in Michigan. So they're worried about the Upper Peninsula, which is close to Canada. And so like they start hearing, you know, and so we see that progression over the course of a couple of weeks.
And then they eventually don't want to leave the house anymore and they want to stay.
Exactly. And so we kind of like, we get the news talking about it and the radio station that they're listening to. It's such a slow build, but in the most like tension building sort of way. Like you feel yourself. Like I couldn't put this book down because I kept like, what happens next? What's coming next? What's coming next? It's kind of like it's there. I'm almost to the good part. There's got to be around the corner. Like that feeling of needing to know what's gonna happen. It builds so well. I had this read so fast. Like and honestly, I was a little disappointed in the movie because it literally went from like nothing to full on creature and everyone's suiciding in the streets screaming. There wasn't a huge giant massive thing like that in the book. It was a slow build.
Yeah, it was like all of a sudden there was nothing happening and then they were hearing about it. Then all of a sudden it was in the area and it was present and everyone, it was like pure chaos in the street.
There were explosions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it was explosions and people screaming and
it turned into War of the Worlds.
It really did.
It really felt like.
It was like, and I'm not going to say that the movie was bad, but that was not what I expected after having read the book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in the book, it's Shannon who sees the creature, but she sees it out of the window of their home, and she takes her life in their home. Different scenes, same impact. Mallory is now completely alone and pregnant. So Mallory eventually makes her way to a house with a group of strangers who've boarded up every window and established strict rules. No looking outside, ever. But there's basically where the book and the movie really start to part ways.
Well, and even the way that they don't look out the windows is like in the book, they have the windows completely like taped up and nailed up with blankets so that you can't see out at all. In the movie, they like close the blinds.
Yeah.
You know,
they did have newspaper.
At some point, they put up newspaper. Yeah. It was a little bit. Also, Mallory in the book, when she shows up at the house, is like 3 months pregnant. Mallory in the movie is like 8 months pregnant. Like she got a couple of weeks. You know,
speed it up.
And so like the building of the relationships in the house is kind of cheapened a bit in the movie. But again, you have to cut for time. You know what I mean? So I kind of get it, but also that was really, to me, key to the story.
Yeah, I agree. In the book, the safe house survivors include Tom, Jules, his dog Victor, Felix, Cheryl, Dawn, and another pregnant woman named Olympia.
Who in the movie is played by the same person who plays Dumplin in the movie called Dumplin. And she she reluctantly joins a pageant kind of as a way to like prove to her mom that even big girls can be in a pageant. And it's like a joke to her. kind of like Sandra Bullock was in Miss Congeniality, and it wasn't really her idea, and it was all a joke to her. So I just thought that was interesting. Oh, I really like Dumpling. It's a good movie. It's also based on a book, so you might see that later.
Put it on the list.
Yep.
There's even a detailed subplot about recording the creatures through a camera to view them safely, which, as you can guess, doesn't work. And George is the one who tries it in the book and ends up dead. So, in the movie, the housemates are different. Tom is there, but...
Wait, the guy who plays Tom?
Oh my god. Okay, yeah.
Oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
This man, I was crushed on him the entire movie.
Yep.
I had like the hard eyes, like a cartoon, the entire time. I was like, oh my gosh. And then MGK would come in, and I'm like, giving him the stink eye. I'm like, what are you doing here?
Go away.
Yeah, so Tom is there, but so are Douglas, Cheryl, Charlie, Greg, Felix, who is played by Colson Baker, aka Machine Gun Kelly.
Nice government name.
Lucy, and Olympia. She is still there. So Greg tries the surveillance camera experiment and basically meets the same fate as George. It's a major moment in both versions. It's the realization that there is no safe way to see these creatures, and your only hope is to never look at all.
But this is the science part. Because this is a little science fiction-y, which is another reason I love it so much. Because I love that Greg, or George, depending on the version, tries to be really scientific about it. Like, we know we can't look at them. Maybe we can look at them through a filter. Maybe we can look at them indirectly. Maybe we can use other tools to look at them. Because, like, and legit, there was a part of me that was like, well, they have to work with what they have, but, like, could they use infrared cameras? Would that have worked? Or maybe use sonar to, like, tell where they are. Like, even my science brain was like, yes, Greg, George, let's figure this out. and then, of course, he comes, like, his first official experiment in this kills him.
Yeah.
And they stop trying after that, which, don't get me wrong, I don't advocate for killing yourself, but also, like, it was really sad to just kind of see that go. But I do love that even after that, Tom in the book and in the movie was like, okay, we can't look at them. We're just going, we're not even going to worry about that. We are, however, going to figure out as many ways as we can to try to detect where they're going to be so that we can, like, go on runs and get food and stuff like Tom was my dude.
Yeah.
And it didn't hurt that he was nice to look at.
Yeah. Totally.
I will say Sandra Bullock was 54 when she made this movie, and Trevante Rhodes,
such a queen,
Tom, was 28. Hence the gross babysitter comment.
Yeah, I get it.
I did not know that.
Well, even she was like, in, like, the character in the movie, because he was, like, all flirty with her, and she was like, I'm old enough to have been your babysitter. Like, and then he was like, my hot babysitter. And it was like, yeah. But Sandra Bullock is gorgeous.
Did not know she was 54 in that movie.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Nobody would ever have guessed that. She was playing a pregnant woman.
Well, that's why when I heard that comment about her being the babysitter, I was like, what's the age difference? And I looked it up. I was like, 26 years. Are you kidding me?
She's so gorgeous for her age. I wish I want to look that good. I look older than her already.
I'm sorry, I was so distracted. I had a crush, okay? I didn't see anything else. I didn't hear anything.
Who?
Who's Sandra Bullock? I have no idea. I just see Tom. I was with the people I was watching with, I kept turning to them. I'm like, I have a crush on this man. I'm literally, a crush is activated at this moment. And I know what's going to happen to him in the end, and I'm scared.
Yep.
There's also a scene in the movie when Charlie talks to Mallory about a book that he's writing. He makes the comment, it's not one of those kids' stories where they all got crossbows and they're killing each other to survive or running around some giant maze. Rosa Salazar plays Lucy in the movie. She played Brenda in The Maze Runner, The Scorch Trials, and
Oh
The
my
Death Cure.
gosh.
That was really funny.
That's hilarious.
I like Charlie. That was a good character.
I loved him. Yeah, I don't want to talk about what happened, but
yep. Or just pretend that didn't happen. It's fine.
Yeah, he's fine.
But yeah, in the movie they end up going to a grocery store. They do a run for food and supplies. What they do is they black out the windshield on the car.
Which honestly, this whole thing doesn't make sense to me. I feel like this could not happen.
In the book, it didn't make any sense to me, right? Like, they just put bumpers on the car and, like, painted all the windows and then drove by feel and watching the odometer using a map. In the movie, they used the GPS. Now, even, like, slightly more future technology, my car, and I know a lot of other cars, can, like, sense the lines on the road and tell you when you're, like, out of your lane and stuff. So, like, I'm thinking that could be done, especially if you're one of the only cars out there.
Well, my issue is that it was, like, literally World War Z up in here.
Oh, yeah, you're driving over bodies.
Whenever we were done. Well, not only were they driving over bodies, we had cars blown up in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
Huge, like, things in the middle of the street that you can't get around.
Yeah, you'd have to be lucky.
Things were left. Yeah.
You would have to be lucky. Also, and this is where, like, there's no GPS in the world that can help you. How did they get that car out of, maybe I believe that happened, but then back into the garage?
Yeah, that was what I was wondering. Because they parked it perfectly in that garage. They didn't bump into anything.
You crashed through the house.
Right.
I just don't believe that that's where, like, I'm all like, yeah, they can drive down post-apocalyptic roads. It'd be fine. They have GPS. The car's really smart. It'll be great. But getting into the garage? No, I don't believe that.
Nope.
That's where you lost me.
And that parking lot looked pretty empty that they pulled into.
Well, not only that, they pull into the parking lot and kind of somewhat hit a pillar. They open the doors and immediately Charlie knows where they are.
Yeah,
knows where the door is.
Like, you don't know where you stopped in the parking lot. You know you're in the parking lot. You probably can tell on the GPS how close to the building you are within a reasonable distance. But you still can't tell me, okay, about 6 feet to the left is the door, or whatever it was that he said. No.
Yeah.
No. Don't believe it.
Yep.
Yeah. I was like, I need this scene to be longer because I need you to struggle longer.
Right.
So that I can make it believable.
They needed to have to, like, crawl to field where the curbs were or something.
Yeah.
I needed more.
I wanted to see them trying to put all their groceries back into the car, into the vehicle, in the birds, all that stuff, blindfolded, honestly.
Yep.
That's what I wanted to see.
Also, they only picked up one package of diapers, and they have 2 pregnant women back at the house.
Yep.
What? Even I know that's not, like, no. They should have taken as many diapers as they could carry with them.
Yeah.
The only logical explanation is that there were literally no other diapers. They got everything that was there. That would be the only excuse for them getting only
excuse.
Yeah.
So they do get to the grocery store. They find supplies. Mallory gets the birds, which this happens much later in the book. Unfortunately, they do come across their first interaction with people who are not
instantly deadified.
Right.
They're not as affected.
Exactly. Yeah.
By whatever creature is out there.
They're untrustworthy. But they're in the freezer. Or not the freezer, sorry, the loading dock. But Charlie knows
freezer door on it. That latch.
Right.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the door and I was like, that's a freezer door. No,
that's a walk-in. That's a walk-in. Like, anybody who's worked in food service knows exactly what that was.
Yeah.
Like, that was a walk-in.
Yeah.
And I don't understand. They were like, that's the loading dock. I've never seen that kind of latch.
Nope.
on an exterior door. Also, loading docks usually have the like gate doors because the truck just
Saw
backs
it in the
into it.
mist.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. That was very like a missed thing.
A missed
that happened.
moment.
A
Yeah.
missed moment, yes.
So Charlie knows the guy who is on the loading dock who's knocking on the door. He's asking for help. Tom and I can't remember who else was there. I think it was Lucy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it was the girl.
And then the other dude who in the book is Don, but I don't remember if that was his name in the...
He's John Malkovich in the
Yeah,
movie.
it's John Malkovich. Let's just call him John Malkovich.
Also was in Warm Bodies.
Yes. Yep.
There you go.
Grigio. He played Grigio,
Mhm.
right? He plays Douglas in the movie.
Mhm.
But they hear the guy knocking on the door. Some people don't want Tom to open the door. Tom's very helpful. He opens it. Turns out the guy is... He wants everyone to see the creatures. So Charlie sacrifices himself and saves
So they
everyone.
can shove him out of the way and close the door.
Yeah.
It was
And
very...
It was sad,
touching.
man.
It was a really sad moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't want Charlie to go.
Charlie wasn't innocent.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mhm.
He was writing that book.
He was just a kid.
Yeah. So they make it back to the house. This is when they pull the car into the garage, even though they can't see. And then in the book, like I said, this happens much later. So you guys might have to help me remember when it happens in the book. But I want to talk about Gary.
Mr. Collins. Mr. Collins from Pride and Prejudice.
Which I literally watched the night before.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm like, Mr. Collins is scary.
I was like, I know that guy. Like, creeper.
This is such a major turning point in both stories, both the book and the movie. And in the book, Gary is a drifter who talks his way into the house.
And I'm not going to... Okay, so I don't know if this is a hot take. Okay. But personally, and I think I would feel differently if I was like, I was by myself and I found these group of people and somebody wanted to come into the house and like we were with each other for a while and someone wanted to come in. I would feel very hesitant about it. I would probably struggle with letting somebody in. If I was by myself and they had let me in, I would feel like, I don't know. If it was just like me and my family and like my people, I would like... I always say like end of the world type scenarios like this, like the scenario, what's scarier than the scenario are like people.
Yes.
And what they'll do during
Absolutely.
these type of scenarios.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry, I don't think I would let the man in.
No, that's totally fair. I mean, in the book, Mallory shows up to the house and those people are already living in the house. So they let her in. They, of course, they're skeptical at first, but they let her in. And then they do the same with Olympia. She was actually a neighbor. They let her in. So they've had success so far. And then they don't really have any bad instances of saving people until this Gary.
Especially after you just witnessed what it's possibly doing to other people.
Right.
In this environment. I don't think I'm letting anybody else in the house.
Yeah, and then in the movie, so Mallory shows up basically the same time everyone else does. Everyone shows up at the house at the same time. No one has been there. That's not an established group. And then Olympia shows up. They let her in. But then they have the grocery store incident with the guy in the loading dock.
Right.
Bad experience. But then back at the house, Gary shows up and Olympia lets him in on her own, doesn't consult anyone. She just lets, because she knows that they're going to say no. So very different experiences.
I also think though that like in the book, we didn't have the grocery store experience, but what they did have was like, by the time Mallory came, there was still radio. There was still a little bit of news, right? And then when Olympia came in, they didn't have news or television or anything anymore, but they still had that one radio station with the one guy who was still going. And then they lost that guy on the radio. So now they literally have zero contact or any idea with what's going on in the outside world. And then it was like a month after that this Gary dude shows up. So it was like they had not had contact with any other humans for a very long time. And to me, that would have been the big difference. Is like at this point, the people that are surviving have already found their places to hole up, have already found the places to be. And if you're out on your own after that point, then like I don't think I would let anybody in either. I can't trust you. And legit, I would have been prepared for that. I would have had the front door, boarded if we needed to, or better fortifications, or some way to defend, from, because that's it. And I mean, I've seen too many zombie movies, or like it's the people that are wandering around well after the fact that are the people you can't trust.
And also I would have had a conversation with everybody about if this scenario happens, what we're going to be doing about it. Also, in the book, at this point, Tom and I think Jules had already scanned the area, the houses in the area, because they had attempted to go out for a little bit and scan the area and did not find a single person in the area. Like had just recently done that. And that's why they were hesitant about this guy, because they were just like,
where did he come from?
Where the heck did he come from? Because we just looked around everywhere. And if you have your eyes closed, like you wouldn't have got here so quickly.
And I think Mallory also makes the observation that he had to have been watching the house for a little while, because he didn't give up. He went to that house and was knocking on the door and knocking. It's the middle of the night. Everyone's asleep. It's not like they're up making noise or anything. He knew there were people in there. And he continued to knock until someone said something. So Mallory makes the observation, he must have been watching because he knew we were here. It's another red flag. But he does insist that the creatures are a shared delusion, mass hysteria. He is connected to a man named Frank who believed that you could just open your doors and be fine. Plot twist, Gary is Frank. And he's already seen the creatures. And he's already gone completely mad.
And he had been watching the house.
And in the movie, Gary claims that he has escaped a group of survivors who force people to look at the creatures. And that same group is mentioned in the book, but is never shown. But still, Gary gains trust, and then it all goes to hell.
Well, and at one point in the movie, he says something similar to what the guy on the loading dock had said. And so that's when, like, what's his face? John Malkovich is kind of like,
Douglas.
Something, you can see that like something clicks in his head, and he's like, we got to keep an eye on this one. And so he's like, no, he has to go back. He has to leave. And so they lock John Malkovich in the garage for being an asshole. But he was right.
Should have listened. Yeah, should have listened to him.
Yeah,
should have listened to him. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm just like not letting in this man. I'm not letting him in. No.
Too late now.
Sorry.
Like,
I'm sorry now.
Yeah.
Like, that drove me so crazy. And I literally was like yelling at the TV, don't let this man in. Like, I remember first watching it. What are you doing?
I said the same thing in Pride and Prejudice. Don't let him in your house. He's a weirdo.
Don't let in Mr. Collins.
So in both versions, Olympia and Mallory go into labor at the same time.
Oh my God.
Yes, we have that trope.
Okay, but let me tell you, like, that's kind of a real thing. As someone who has done the whole have a baby thing.
About the scene. The scene scares me. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm sure that does happen.
It happens all the time where women go into labor right around the same time. So
no.
It's weird.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying this scene horrifies me.
Mhm.
This entire scene where
In
they're
the
trying to
book
give
and
birth.
in the movie, both had me.
The book felt more brutal.
The book
in my
was
opinion.
much more brutal.
Much more brutal.
But both scenes had me just frozen. I couldn't walk away. I couldn't stop. I had to get through it.
That
And
was insane.
it
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about each scene, the book and the movie, and we'll kind of break down what makes it so terrifying in the book, because I think it deserves to be talked about, because that was insane. But while they're giving birth, Gary reveals his true nature, and he removes the window coverings, and he opens the door and lets the creatures in. And in both versions, people die horribly. Olympia jumps to her death. Mallory hides with both babies. Cheryl dies. And in the book, our poor sweet Tom.
in the book, everyone except for Mallory and the babies die. Everyone. Well, and Gary.
And Gary. Yeah, he escapes. He makes it out. But in the book, they're in the attic, which is supposed to be like this really secure place in the house. And Mallory has her back to the door, so she can't really see what's going on. And there are people running in and out of the room. She can hear noises. She can hear voices escalating. She knows
like arguments.
And then less people start coming in the room. And then she realizes in the darkness that someone's been standing in the corner of the attic watching them.
Oh my God.
And at this point, they had actually already kicked Gary out of the house in the book. Gary's technically gone, but Gary had made a friend.
Douglas. Dawn? Whatever.
Dawn. I think it was Dawn.
It was Dawn.
Who sneaks him back in the house. So he was actually hiding in the basement the whole time. But now they're giving birth in the attic, and Gary is there, just hiding out.
Had me messed up.
As they're giving birth, which is that's different than the movie, because they had already, like, everything was happening, but he wasn't up there with them until they were done giving birth. Like, as they're actively
pushing
out, he is lurking and like talking and about to do something.
So it turns out Gary removed the coverings on the windows and opened the door, and he did let a creature in. And he's like buddy with this creature. He can look at it. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't bother him. But the creature is actually in the attic with them at one point.
And I have to say, through the whole book, we kind of are, it's hinted at that these creatures are not malicious. They are somehow stuck over here, or like our dimensions might have, I don't know, gotten whatever, that they are not purposely hurting people. That they're curious, that they're interested, but they're not purposely hurting people. And so we kind of get the impression that you could be standing next to one and it's not going to hurt you unless you look at it, and your brain can't handle whatever it sees. And so it causes you to go crazy and suicide. So, like, you know, Gary lets this creature in and is in some way kind of being like, look, do you see the babies? Aren't they beautiful? Look at, you know, and like show the creature your baby, and like talking to Olympia, and like Mallory screaming, like, cover the baby's eyes, you know. Like at that point, I was freaking out, because in my head, I had already convinced myself these creatures are not bad. They're just
misunderstood.
Not even misunderstood. They're just like, maybe they're trapped too. Who knows? You know what I mean? But like, it really, like, I don't know. This whole section had me messed up.
Yeah. And we don't know, like, it's just like, it's what we don't know that's so scary. Because you don't know what these creatures look like. Like, it's just like, I don't know. I feel like it's so well done and so smart. Like, we keep talking about how terrifying it is, but I love that it's so terrifying. It
Yes.
messed me up,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yep.
So in the book, like we said, the other survivors are dead. Gary and the creature are gone. Mallory answers a phone call from a man named Rick, and he's alive and running a sanctuary. But Mallory is too overwhelmed. She literally just lost everyone. And I don't even think at this point she's even seen what exactly has happened, because she's literally just given birth and then dragged herself out of the attic, covering her eyes to go answer this phone because the phone is ringing and ringing and there's no one there to answer it. So she hasn't even seen everything.
And the phone ringing is like weird.
Right. Like, that's the first time that's ever happened. So she
Yeah.
doesn't want to just let it go. She
Yeah, you
wants
want to
to
answer the phone. Yeah.
They made so many phone calls and left so many voicemails that this is their first phone call that they're getting back. So yeah, she absolutely has to answer it. But then she begins to train the two children obsessively. Again, their names are girl and boy. And she teaches them to navigate the world by sound, touch, and instinct. And she doesn't give them names because basically naming them is a luxury that she can't afford at this point.
Yeah. This
She's
like
like,
makes me, it makes my like heart hurt so bad
Mhm.
for her. Like, it's like people might be like mad at this, but like I feel like I understand her
Mhm.
on so many levels for doing this. Like, even when she's just like, she talks about, and I think she does this so well in the movie, Sandra Bullock does, where she's like, she's very like mean to them and very hard on them, but it's like, this, we have to survive. Like, you have to listen to me. There's a point where she's like, you need to stay at this boat because I have to go walk away and I have to go check this like house, right? Wow, because I'm stopping while we were on the river. And she's like, you have to stay at this boat. And when the little girl walks away for a second, and while she's gone, and she comes back, and we're at the point of view of the little girl who's walking, and she's has a rope tied around her that goes to the raft, and all of a sudden she's dragged away by the rope, and you're thinking it's like a creature or something, but it's actually Sandra Bullock dragging her by the rope, because she's like, this is not a freaking game. Like, I need you to get in the
Mhm.
raft, and I need you to stay there
Mhm.
because I need you to survive,
Mhm.
and
And
I need you to listen.
there's the argument that Mallory was not allowing herself to, and they kind of made this seem like it in the movie, that she wasn't allowing herself to love the kids, and that's why she didn't give them names.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
But in the book, I think it was a little bit better that, like, not only did she love these children,
Mhm.
but she loved them so much that she was not allowing herself any sort of grace or softness, because she knew the most important thing she could do for them was to make sure that they could survive, to
Yeah.
make sure that they could live, and the best way to do that was to be hard.
Yep.
And like,
Yep.
I don't know, like, it's one of those that really makes you think about the decisions you make as a parent and why you make them, and what things you deny yourself or your children in order to keep them safe. And in this
Mhm.
situation, nothing else mattered.
Mm-hmm.
Literally nothing else. Their mental health did not freaking matter if they were dead. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Their nutritional needs did not matter if they walked outside and died. Like,
Mhm.
and so none of that mattered. She was prepping them to survive.
Yep.
Yeah. I think I really liked this scene in the movie because in the movie, Tom still survives
Mhm.
after that. And
Which I hated.
yeah, they has, I kind of liked it because he survives a little bit longer with them, and helps raise the two kids with her, and he has like a moment with them telling like them stories and stuff like that,
Mhm.
and Sandra
It's like a
Bullock is,
tender moment.
yeah, a
Mhm.
tender moment, and Sandra Bullock's like, we got to go to sleep or something, it's like bedtime or whatever, and the little girl's like not listening, and she gets upset that like, you need to listen to me, and Tom like kind of gets upset that he doesn't get to finish like his story and having this tender moment with them. And she has this moment where she's like, they have to like, there can't be any pushback ever, because this is like life or death. Because if we have pushback in this moment, like when I need like these kids to listen when we're out there with our blindfolds on, there cannot ever be pushback because it's life or death. And I don't know. I just like loved all these little moments. I mean, I don't love to hear it because it's sad, but I just was like, I felt so much for her.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, it's 5 years that Mallory and Tom are living with the children, and they're basically a family. And together they hear of the sanctuary, and Tom ends up having to sacrifice himself to give them time to escape because they're attacked by people who aren't wearing blindfolds. So yeah, we do actually get to see the people without the blindfolds more in the movie than we do in the book. But they're survivors who have seen the creatures, and they're still alive.
And once again, the creatures aren't necessarily the bad guys. The humans are. Just like in damn near every one of the monster books or horror books we read, it's the people that are the problem.
Yeah.
But then it comes to the river journey, which is what we saw at the very beginning in both the book and the movie. And Mallory and the children travel blindfolded down the river,
which is my personal worst nightmare. That is my worst nightmare. That is absurd. And like as we said before, and which is actually so cool, because whenever we see, oh my gosh, her name just left my brain, Olympia, when we see Olympia come in, we're like, oh, this is where the two kids are gonna come in.
Right.
And then so now we're back to them being on the raft, and it's like you can tell this is the last resort. Like we're sweating right now because we're just like, oh, this is like, we have no other options left at this point. We have to be on this river. And like she's like panicking the entire time. Also, the birds in the box, I know this is Bird Box, but those poor birds.
Oh my gosh, there's no way those birds survived.
No.
That's the most unrealistic part of the whole story.
Not the creatures.
Not the creatures.
The birds in the box.
The birds in the box.
The birds in the box in Bird Box.
That went in the river and then came out of the river.
Yeah.
While still in the box.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Nope. So while they're on this river, they face a human trying to trick them, dangerous rapids, and the creatures in the river. And then in just the book, there are also wolves. And Mallory is even attacked and wounded and is nearly forced to remove her blindfold. But
can we talk about the animals?
Yeah.
In the book, there's a dog. In the book, there's multiple dogs.
There's 3 dogs.
Okay, yeah. Can we talk about that?
I don't want to talk about Victor.
You want to make me cry?
Especially Victor. I'm just saying. I was so pumped when they thought of the dog idea.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about.
I was not pumped. I was nervous.
Yeah.
They went to find dogs.
Sacrifice them basically to test a theory.
Well, they were like, I think they kind of thought that like the animals wouldn't be affected. Seeing eye dogs could really help us. And that's a solid thought. That's some good science.
I don't think Jules thought it was going to work because he didn't even want to use Victor to test that theory. They wanted to go out and find dogs and use outside dogs. He didn't want to use his own dog. He didn't even trust it. I didn't like it. I mean,
Victor's demise, I had to stop reading.
I can't with these animals dying, man.
Oh, and I don't think we need to go into it, but just the Victor dies because he is affected by the creatures.
Dogs are not immune.
Dogs are not immune. So then when she was like, when I thought back to the attack on the river from the wolves, I thought to myself, well, like, where did the wolves come from? You would think that if there's that many creatures out there, there really wouldn't be that many other just animals around.
Well, there's also the birds.
Right.
Mhm.
That really, I will say that that's the only part of the book, the science really kind of, because like, okay, if humans are that instantly affected by this bajillion creatures that seem to be everywhere that you can't, like, even just peeking out the window, chances are you're going to die, then every wild animal out there too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's
Anyways, so they're floating down the river.
Yeah. In the movie, the creatures attempt to manipulate the children by using familiar voices.
And see, that's not in the book either. The
Nope.
creatures aren't manipulating anybody to take masks off. They're not.
Nope.
There's no reported any attack of a creature on a human. That's not happened at all.
Nope.
Yeah.
But at this point, Mallory finally breaks down, and this is the first time she tells the children that she loves them, which, again, is not in the book.
No.
But both versions do end at the sanctuary, which is a school for the blind, and it is a community where many have blinded themselves by choice to remain safe. In the book, the sanctuary feels kind of uncertain.
Yes.
It's grim, but it's safe. And in the movie, it's a lot more hopeful. It's beautiful. Mallory sees people she recognizes.
Yeah.
Her
The
doctor's
doctor
there.
Really, I was like, can we not? That was weird.
Yeah.
Yep.
But she finally gives the children names. And she names them Tom and Olympia.
Which I thought was particularly beautiful.
Kind of wish she would have named the girl Shannon or Jessica, depending on if you're watching the movie or reading the book.
Yeah.
But it makes sense that she named it after her mom.
Yeah.
So.
There is a second book.
Yes. It's titled
What?
Mallory.
Yeah. Titled Mallory, which is actually where the kids are teenagers later.
They've grown up in the sanctuary.
Yeah. So I think that's why in the book it kind of feels uncertain. There's also a second movie.
It's just Barcelona. It's just the events of Bird Box in Barcelona. I did hear there were talks of another movie, but there's nothing actually happening.
I might have to read that book. This is a really good book.
Yeah, I really liked it. So, final verdict, though. Are we going book or movie?
Oh,
or
book.
both? Book. Yeah. Okay.
Keri, no. Keri, no. You only like Tom.
I don't know. I think because I watched the movie first.
You only like it because there was a romantic element to it. There's really no romance in this book.
Probably. I think I liked the sequence of events. Yeah. Probably because of the romantic element and the sequence of events that happened whenever they had the kids and so on. I liked the sequence of events from there better in the movie than I did in the book, but I liked the suspense more in the book before that, in the first half. Like, I like the second half of the movie more, first half of the movie book more.
Okay.
I think I specifically don't like the romance in the movie. I feel like I really loved that Mallory respected Tom, that looked up to Tom in the book, that she valued Tom's expertise and his knowledge and his way of thinking. I loved that there was no romance, because I feel like in these survival situations, they force it's very tropey, it's very heavy-handed, and I think specifically in this instance, like, the accomplishment of Mallory raising these children on her own
I
for
do love
4 years was diminished by having Tom in the movie. Like, and And again, it made her look like she was the bad guy. She was the hard ass for not allowing them these dreams and these ideas, where Tom was trying to be soft and tender and, and telling them stories and, like that. I feel like painted Mallory in a bad light when it didn't need to.
And I love like a tropey formula.
Yeah.
I'll say that first. I love a tropey
No,
formula.
I get it.
But I think that the first time reading it, I was like, I felt more that way. That's why I gave it a lower rating. But I appreciated the less romance in it more this second time reading it. Like, I appreciated her storyline much more. So, I think I probably like them equal, but I do love a tropey formula. I can't help it.
Yeah, I mean, the movie wasn't bad, but I really, really enjoyed the book. And for that to be your debut album, your debut novel.
Your debut album.
He's in a band. The author's in a band. I can't remember what it is. High Strung. He lives in Ferndale, Michigan. The rock band is called High Strung. Says it on the back of the book.
Debut album, Bird Box.
Bird Box.
There you go.
Dropping them tracks.
Yep.
No, I mean, that was fantastic. I really enjoyed the book. But that leads us to our question of the episode. Would you rather live in a world where you can't open your eyes, like in Bird Box, or one where you can't close them, like in Doctor Who?
Don't look away.
Don't blink. Crystal.
Okay, so are the rules the same? Because they're like, and am I alone? Because if I'm alone, then I'll just close my eyes forever and it'll be fine. But like, I would hate that. And if I'm not gonna be alone, if I can partner up with somebody and we can take shifts with our eyes open, then I would definitely prefer that.
Well, you don't want me on your team because I gotta blink like every 2 seconds. I'm dead.
Crap.
I have to have eye drops all the time.
We just have to.
So like, you're not like, there's like strain to it. Like, you're not naturally having your eyes open all the time.
No, this is not a natural thing. This is
Oh no.
Like, obviously in Bird Box, where there are certain situations where you don't have to be blindfolded. So there are certain situations where you don't have to have your eyes open. But when you step outside those bounds, eyes are open. Don't blink. Don't blink.
Yeah, you can't.
Let me channel my inner David Tennant. Don't blink.
Best Doctor.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go Bird Box. Like, yeah, that's a hard one though. That's kind of hard.
It's so hard because I don't like the idea of not being able to see at all. I like legit. I'm a klutz. But also, like, there's no way I could keep my eyes open like that by myself. Yeah.
Like a staring contest for like a really long time.
Or like ever. Yeah.
I'm gonna leave immediately. I'm out.
I'm gonna have to do Bird Box. Definitely Bird Box.
Okay.
What about you, Lindsay?
Yeah, no, I cannot keep my eyes open for anything, so I'm gonna go Bird Box.
You just have like eye drops going constantly.
Literally, I'm gonna have to have an endless supply of eye drops because no. I have the driest eyes. No.
Now I'm self-conscious about blinking. Hold on. Don't look.
Allergies start going. I'm like, I gotta sneeze so bad.
Your eyeballs just pop right out of your head.
Yeah.
And then you're gone.
You're done.
Well, that's where we're gonna leave it. Blindfolds on, birds in a box, and sanity hanging on by a thread.
Typical Tuesday night.
Whether you loved the quiet horror of the book or the high stakes chaos of the movie, Bird Box reminded us that sometimes the scariest things aren't what you see, it's what you can't. So thanks for joining us for this episode and for kicking off MAYhem with me. Be sure to follow, rate, and review if you haven't already. It helps more bookish weirdos like us find their way here. And we will be back next week with more chaos, more creatures, and probably more cats interrupting. But until then, stay safe, stay curious, and don't remove your blindfolds. And we'll catch you in the next chapter of Based on a Book. Bye!
Bye!
Bye.